All right. Hope everybody's first week of classes has gone well. Just in this class, especially if you're still struggling on like where to find things, or like if you were looking for something and you can't find the assignment, feel free to let me know. Everything should be pretty straightforward, laid out in Blackboard. But if you feel like you're having a hard time getting on the right foot, feel free to reach out to me and I'll help you out however I can. Let's look at this week. We're going to add a few more things, and then honestly, we're just going to make sure that we've finished up everything we were supposed to start last week. So first off, this is a big one. I have sent emails out to anyone if this applies to you, and I'll try to do that again early this week. But remember, in online classes, you have to complete something to be counted as attending. You can't just log on to Blackboard. You have to actually do something. So that's why we had the pre-test that was due like last Friday. Hopefully everyone did that. But if you haven't, if you have not completed any assignments in this class, I can't mark you as having attended. And the reason that's so important, number one, that can affect financial aid and things like that. But number two, this is the big one. If you haven't completed anything by early Thursday, Gadsden State drops you from your classes. Same thing like if you're taking a traditional class and you haven't attended before this Thursday, Gadsden State drops you from your classes. So I don't want that to happen, and that's not a judgment call. I can't do anything if that happens. I have no say in the matter. It's just Gadsden State will automatically drop you if you have not attended. So check your emails if you haven't done that. See if I've got a message that I sent to you, but make sure that you've completed an assignment by as soon as possible, because I've got to mark you. So if you do it at noon on Thursday, I'm not going to have enough time to update attendance before you're dropped. All right. So just make sure you've done that. Okay. So if you've completed everything, if you're done with that, then that's great. What we have for this week, the new material is we're going to do our first lecture videos. So if you go to the if you go to the learning materials and click on the Unit 1 folder, the one up top, the very first section we're going to do is Intro to Animals and Invertebrates and Sponges and Cnidarians. So the first half of that lecture is going to be talking about just characteristics of animals. And then after that, we start looking at some of the really simple animals we're going to look at in this class. So sponges, jellyfish, things like comb jellies. We'll learn about their characteristics. All right. What I've done is I've taken the lecture videos and I've broken them up into about 30-minute sections. So that way, if you've got enough time, go through and watch them all. But that way, if let's say you just put your kids to bed and you've got to get to bed, but you've got 30 minutes that you can use, you can just watch one of those and make a schedule that works for you. Make sure that you watch all of those, but that way you don't have to sit down and have like a 2-hour lecture to watch. You can break them up into smaller pieces. After you have watched the lecture videos, there is a review quiz that's going to be due Sunday, September 5th. So this is going to be on the material that was in that lecture. You can use your notes. You can use the PowerPoint when you're taking these quizzes. That's perfectly okay. You can't do that during the test, obviously, but for the review quiz, you can. And this should be a chance just to make sure that you got everything, that you didn't skip out on anything. If you are taking the review quiz and you feel really comfortable with your answers, and I want you to double check before you submit it. But like if you see the question and you're like, oh yeah, I know that, that should be a sign that you're on the right track for studying. If you're watching the lecture videos and then you take the review quiz and you don't know any of the answers offhand, you might want to look at the way you're studying, taking notes, make sure you're just focused on that. You don't have like the TV on in the background. I'm guilty of that too. I'm not talking down on anyone because I've done that before too. But just kind of look at how you're studying and see if you need to make any adjustments. All right. So that's the big things for this week. Just remember any of last week's assignments. So the About Me survey, the syllabus quiz, the diversity project, all of those are going to be due this Sunday as well, September 5th. So make sure you did all those if you haven't already. I know most of you have. Remember, I told you how to sign up for SI Cloud, which is our lab website. So we don't have a lab this week, but I think next week is our first lab. So you've got to get all of the prerequisites out of the way before next week's real lab. So if you didn't do that last week, make sure you sign up. One more reminder, make sure you have bought your lab kit because you have to do that to be able to access the labs. And then there's a couple prerequisites. One is getting started and one is lab safety. Make sure you've got all of that out of the way so that next week when we have a real lab, you'll be ready to go. Okay? One more. This is a big one. You've got a little while before this is due, but there is a practice exam. And what this is to make sure you know how to use Respondus Lockdown Browser. Number one, make sure we don't have any technical issues. But the big one, number two, is to make sure that you understand what's expected of you during a real test. So when you take this practice exam, there's going to be some instructions on how to record your environment. It's going to tell you to make sure that the webcam is centered on you and then it's not pointed away. If you take a test like that, I cannot give you credit for the test. So I've recorded a video that's like a respondus walkthrough. It shows you how what's expected of you, shows you what I'm looking for when I grade your test, just to make sure you get credit for it. So before a real test, I wanted to do this on a practice exam, and you can find that in the exams tab to the left. There's a folder that says practice exams. So open up that folder. It's going to give you a link to download respondus if you haven't done that already. And then watch the video, make sure you know how to take the test, and then the review quiz, the practice exam. It's 5 questions, but you don't have to study. It's things like, what year is it? What's the name of this class? What's your instructor's name? So it's just to make sure, number one, no technical issues, and then number two, you follow those instructions to make sure you get credit when the real thing happens coming up pretty soon. All right? So that's it. If you have any questions or if you need help with anything, let me know. Thanks.